warm welcome. I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic out there as always, and I hope that you can see me. Very welcome to my Sunday night live stream, something that I'm hoping to do every Sunday that I possibly can going forward. Now, it might not be on the same time when I'm working earliest the day after. I will probably be doing it a little bit earlier. But if you have the Mentour Aviation application, then I will send out notifications to you so that you have ample time to prepare yourself to take part of the live stream. How are you all doing out there? I see Aidan737 is here. Marius, Helen, as always. Great to see you here. I didn't know that it was El Clasico on the TV, guys. Sorry about that. I would not have chosen the live stream to clash with El Clasico, obviously. But, you know, we'll make the most out of it for those of you who are actually here. So, I also want to start, guys, by saying a huge thank you to my Patreons. Now, you guys, you know who you are. You're extremely valuable to me and to the channel. You're enabling me to do loads of stuff. So, a huge thank you to all of my patrons, and if you want to support the channel, then you can go in, check Patreon, www.patreon.com/mentorpilot, and you'll find my page there, and you can contribute with as little or as much as you'd like, but you guys are making a huge difference for me personally and for the channel, so thank you very much. So, let's get on to this, guys. There is sites, Google Air shows, you will fairly quickly come to that page, and it will show every single air show that is available in Europe. Guys, as always, I'm using my mobile internet, so if you feel if it's starting to slow down, then it is because my internet is not doing what it should, and it should be coming back any second, guys. So I will see when the video output is low, and I'm going to slow down and just try to sort my internet out. Right, cool. So let's see. Let's see. We'll take the first question from Aidan Martin in the app chat. How do you file a flight plan? Well, it's fairly simple, actually. There is a there's a number you call, and you can fax in a flight plan, or I believe that you can actually email in a flight plan nowadays as well. But if you are an airline pilot, you don't have to worry about those things, because you have a flight planning department, and the flight planning department will be sending in what's called a repetitive flight plan. So every single flight that is out there is going to be sent out. The same flight plan is basically valid for all flights. And it will be just sent in every single day. The only thing that will change basically is the aircraft registration. The rest will be the same every time. So if you're an airline pilot, you don't have to worry about filing flight plans, because your flight planning department will do that for you. Right, so I see that my internet is back up again. Joan Schumacher, thank you very much. We have our first contributor in the super chat. And that is also, if you guys just want to go in and you want to make a one-time contribution to the channel to help out, then you can use the super chat to do so. Joan Schumacher just did, and it also makes a huge difference for the channel. So thank you very much, Joan. If you have a question, then send it in. I know that you are a avid subscriber to the channel, so thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. Bart Leuven, hi Mentor, I'm almost starting my training at Echo Papa Sierra Tango. Any tips for my ATPL training? Yeah, enjoy it, man. Okay, I know that I always say that, but what you really need to do is you're going to need to study very hard, right? So what you need to take care of is yourself. Because there will be times when you feel that the studies are almost overwhelming, and in that case you need to take a few, like at least the evening off. Make sure you take some time for your friends and for your girlfriend and stuff, and get away from aviation a little bit as well, at least for, I would say, at least one evening every week, to make sure that it doesn't overwhelm you. Otherwise, just study, make sure that you get some good friends that you can study together with, and you can discuss things, and I'm hoping that as I'm building on the Mentour Aviation app, you'll be able to go in there and ask if you have any theoretical questions and stuff, and there should be other people there helping you out and answering those things. So just enjoy it would be my main tip for the evening. Right, some more questions. No more questions on the super chat, so I'll grab some from the Mentour Aviation app chat instead. Shout out to UK people. Hi everyone. Hi, all you UK people out there, and all of I know that there's loads of people following. I always it's great for me. That's the best place. Right, more questions. How can you convince your parents to come to an open day with you? Actually, I did a video about what to say to your parents fairly long ago. You can go back into my YouTube channel and you can look for the aviation bug. What to tell your parents is in the title of the video, and it basically shows your parents what they should be thinking about if they have a son or a daughter who wants to become a pilot. The gist of it basically is that to have the target at a young age to become a pilot is probably one of the biggest gifts that your child can ever have. Because, at least if you are like me, it will mean that you will stay clear of criminality, of drugs, of things like that. You will have a clear goal. You know that you need to do good in school. You know that you need to achieve great results, and you need to work on your people skills and things like that in order to achieve this goal, which means that you will be working harder, you will be doing better, you will be keeping away from trouble. So, any parent who has a child who wants to become a pilot should really feel, count themselves very, very lucky. And that is what I am telling in that video. So go in and check that out if you need to convince them. Airbus 350 versus Boeing 787. Well, I haven't flown any of them. I know that they are two great new technologies. Completely, basically, they're very similar in the way that they have been managing to reduce fuel burn, which was a major thing. The way that they're constructed by composites and stuff like that. So I would say that both of them are probably fairly fantastic new aircraft. I would love to get my hands on them and try them out. Charlie, a new question on the app chat. Thank you very much, Charlie. What height do you usually turn on the seatbelts? Right, this is very different between different airlines. Okay, in my airline, for example, we tend to switch the seatbelts on about 15,000 feet above field elevation. And the reason we do that is because that gives a signal to the cabin crew that they have approximately 15 minutes until we land. Which will give them ample time to get people back out of the toilets, get them into their seats, get them to turn off any electronics that they're not allowed to use, and start stowing trolleys and stuff like that. Now, I know the long-haul companies, they tend to put the seatbelt sign on much earlier than that. And that probably is to do with the fact that they have a much larger operation, much more cabin crew, much bigger galleys, stuff like that. So it does differ. In my case, we turn it off at 15,000 feet. Right, I'll take some more questions from the app chat. How do you keep yourself motivated to revise 4 to 5 hours a day for the GCSEs? Yeah, so this is basically goes back to the thing that I've already talked a little bit about, and that is if you have a goal, if your goal is to become a pilot, okay, it means that you will need to get quite good grades, okay. In my case, for example, in Sweden, where you needed to have good grades in order to be considered for the government-sponsored program, well, then it was fairly obvious that they didn't care about what grades you were good at. They just wanted you to have good grades, which meant that even in your if it was cooking or if it was gymnastics or whatever it was, you needed to have good grades. And it becomes much more easy to sit and kind of review stuff, even in subjects that you're not really interested in, if you realize that those grades are still going to be important for you if you want to achieve your goal. So no matter what the subject is, you're still going to have to be good at it. You're still going to have a good grade at it. So you just have to kind of bite the bullet, look into the future, see yourself sitting in that shiny brand new cockpit of a 777 or a 737 or an Airbus or whatever your favorite aircraft is. Think of that and start working your ass off to achieve those good grades. All right, so that would be my my tip for keeping the motivation up. At least that's what I did myself. Mentor, I'm going to participate in a psychological interview in a couple of weeks. Right, I very rarely give suggestions to evaluation. Reason for that is that we are different. The whole point of a psychological evaluation is for them to evaluate you, not evaluate me. So my answers are not going to be correct in your case. All right, but that you can, if we're talking about pilot aptitude testing, not just a psychological interview, but aptitude testing, I would suggest that you go and Google pilot aptitude tests. You'll find loads of websites that do these things. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. Start off with the free ones, go through them, and consider checking out which ones of the paid ones are the best ones, and maybe pay for one of those. And why would you do that? Well, that is because you need to, the more kind of familiar will be really important. If you've done a few of them, you will start to see patterns in them. All right, you will start to recognize different types of tests and stuff like that, and it will make you feel more confident. And when you feel more confident, it's much easier for you. All right, so that's why I suggest that you go out and you practice a few of those. Do some mathematics, some arithmetic, stuff like that, just to get your brain working again. I know I would definitely need to do that if I were to go for some aptitude testing now, because I haven't done more advanced mathematics in like 15 years or something like that. But do that. And when it comes to the actual psychological interview, remember these things, okay? And this is important. They will try to screw with your head. Okay, they will try to get you upset. There will probably be one playing the good cop and one playing the bad cop. And they will ask you questions like, for example, what are your weaknesses? And when you name a weakness, they will drill into that weakness. And that they're doing that to see how you function under stress. Okay, so remember that. So, keep yourself calm, answer honestly to their questions. Do not get upset, things like that. Just be honest and calm and constructive, right? And then just do the best you can when it comes to the tests. It's the only thing that you can do. Charlie Stern, how do you use the super chat? Well, the super chat should be, if you look just below in the where you're writing now, there should be a $sign or something. Some countries doesn't have the super chat, but some countries do. And if there is the $sign, you should be able to just set that and then choose if you want to, how much you want to contribute, and ask a question as you're sending it away, and it should come up in the super chat. So if you want to do that, I'm very grateful for all the help that I can get. Have you ever experienced red-eye flights? Yes. This is every other week. The way that we work in my airline is you work 1 week on earlies and 1 week on lates. Okay. In the earlies, the first earlies are always the red-eye flights. The ones that are leaving like at 6 o'clock in the morning, which means that I am up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So red-eye flights, yes, we do them. Do them fairly often. It's not my favorite, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, but it is nice, especially if you do. Captain, can you shave your beard for us? No. Basically, why? I thought people liked my beard. No, I have no. I think if I would do that, my wife would probably kill me. So I have no plans of shaving my beard at the moment. Cool, more questions. I see there's quite a lot of people popping up now. What knee board do you use? I don't use a knee board, but I do use what's called a pinto board, which is basically a plastic board with a little clip on it so that you can hold your flight plans and stuff like that. We do that. I know that there are several of those out there. I would avoid using the metal ones. Use a plastic ones, the cheapest ones you can find, basically. The metal ones have a nasty tendency to scrape the inside of the windshield, and people have a tendency to just slap them up on top of the windshield, and you can scrape, make marks in the windows, basically. So use plastic ones if you can, especially if you're going to fly the 737. Any revision tips for the ATPL? Man, it was so long since I did the ATPL, but I am 100% sure that if you ask specific questions inside of the Mentour aviation application, the chat in there, if you ask questions there will be someone in there who's done those tests more recently than I have and can help you to revise if there's any questions you might have. All right, that's the best I can do. Do cabin crew have something similar to type ratings? Yes, they do. Actually, they have to be trained on each type that they're flying, obviously because they need to know where all the emergency equipment is and how to operate the slides and how to deal with emergency evacuations and things like that. However, it is not as long or as expensive as a type rating for a pilot. But yes, they need to be trained on every single aircraft type that they will be flying on. Can you give some example of math questions you're going to get? You mean during the, that's from Appy Burag in the chat, is math questions in the actual tests, as in the aptitude testings. I remember that there was some trigonometry in there, some simple trigonometry, and some easy equations as well. We're not talking brain science here, guys. We're talking fairly easy stuff, but still, there's quite a few of them. So they would be equivalent to math level C in Swedish, which is like this the third kind of level of mathematics. If that basically when you start working with I can't give you some exact example of a math question, but those that I mentioned is if you have a good knowledge of those, you should be doing quite okay. Charlie, once again from the super chat, thanks you very much. Did you or do you do any flight simming, and does it help? I did a video on this as well, actually. And basically, guys, by the way, I think that I'm going to redo some of the earlier videos I did because I didn't have very good quality videos, and I've learned quite a lot since then. Like my camera has become much better, the sounds can become much better, and I've also found out quite a lot of things. So some of those earlier videos are probably going to disappear soon, and I think I'm going to remake them with some added material and stuff like that. But yes, to answer your question, flight simming is great from a couple of perspectives, okay, not from others. So it's great in order to learn about system responses, like autopilot system responses, for example. It's great to just get familiarity, and it's very good if you are reviewing, for example, raw data flying, things like that, and you already have the type rating. So yeah, flying flight sim can be beneficial. However, it is equally unbeneficial if you are, for example, spending a lot of time doing specific SOPs within a flight simulator, and then you are actually applying for that specific airline, because it's likely that you've learned SOPs that are not entirely correct. And when you're a new pilot going in for your first type rating, the one benefit that you have against other people that are coming in with more experience is that you are like a blank sheet of paper, or you should be, which we as instructors can kind of write on. But if you've been sheet of paper, you will have to de-learn what you have done, and then you have to learn again, and that might actually be a little bit harmful. So if you're a professional pilot that hasn't yet done your type rating, I will be a little bit careful with getting too deep into specific standard operating procedures. But apart from that, it's good. It's not going to give you any edge. Like, you won't be able to go into an interview saying that, oh, I have 600 hours on FXX or something. No, that won't work. But it will give you an edge in other ways. So I hope that answers your question. So some more questions from the Mentour Aviation app chat. Is it easier to be employed by an airline like Ryanair or Jet2 with the integrated course than the modular course? This is a great question. I was actually part of a study group that looked into the quality of students doing integrated and modular courses. Okay, and after having checked everything that included like initial test results, when their type ratings, their line training, their checks, rides, everything. After having done all of that and checked everything, there was no real difference between the two. Okay, and that speaks well for modular training, because integrated training tends to be more expensive, and they want to show that they're actually better training. Okay, but that doesn't seem to really be the case. However, there are quite a lot of the bigger schools out there having deals with specific airlines. So, for example, CTC and EasyJet, where if you do the integrated course and you're accepted by EasyJet, you just go straight from the integrated course and straight into the airline. Now, that might not be the case. You go through the modular route. So in some cases, it might be easier to get an interview, for example, if you go through the integrated and the modular. And also, I know that some of the airlines are now starting to, because there's loads and loads of bad courses out there. Okay, there's loads and loads of bad, especially MCC courses, and the airlines are getting tired of that, because at the moment, the airlines are starting to look into what schools are good. and they are actually starting to favorize some of them, and you will probably see that because the schools will be very, very upfront with the fact that they have been, let's say, Jet 2 approved or something like that. So look for that. That is probably a quite good quality marker for the schools that you're choosing. All right. All right. So we have a. So we have a guy in the app chat called Adolf Hitler who asks about Jews, and that will not be this is not appropriate, and it will not be tolerated. Okay, so I don't like any kind of racism or anti-Semitic stuff or any type of that within this channel in any form or anything. All right, guys. So if you are this person, then please stop it because it will not be tolerated. Cool. How would you rate the success of the MPL scheme? It's very hard for me to do without having some numbers to back it up on, guys. I would say that from what I've heard, it's a good idea. However, a large majority of the airlines have looking crystal ball, and I guess what's going to happen in the future. I think we're going to say a little bit of a hybrid between the current ATPL integrated courses and the MPL scheme, where I think the airlines are going to go in and they are going to part in some schools integrated courses, and if you are successful there, you will get a choice to join this airline's kind of half MPL scheme, where you will go through towards SOPs towards that airline, go through an MCC course, and probably straight into a type rating for that specific airline. So you get both the benefits of doing a traditional CPL frozen ATPL course and the positive things of being kind of airline prepared. So that's my guess. My guess is that we will see much more of those kind of hybrids turning up because it's the best for both the students and the airlines. Are you going to do something with Captain Joe? Well, ye who lives will see, won't you? So I'm not going to say anything more on that subject. But he has been into the Mentour Aviation app, so he's there from time to time answering questions. And also, this is something I'm also going to, I'm constantly working on trying to make the Mentour Aviation app better. I know that you have been asking me to make the chat better, and I have asked my developers to implement these things that you asked for example, chat rooms and stuff like that. And they've said, of course, this is possible to do. Now hand us a big load of cash. So at the moment, it's too expensive for me to remake the app, but I am looking into possibilities of maybe finding sponsorship from companies from behind to help me, improve the chat function and also add some other features, like for example, helping you to pick out flight schools, things like that, which is something I really want to do. But I can't do that at the moment. What I will be doing though, guys, is I'm going to try to get more professional pilots to go in and answer questions. And also I'm going to talk to flight schools so that, for example, I'll go out and say on Friday evening there will be a flight school answering questions, and you can go in and talk to them and get your answers to the questions that you have. So those are things that I will be doing. So I would recommend all of you, if you haven't already gotten the Mentour Aviation app, then get it, tell your friends about it. And it is completely free to download. There are some paid stuff inside of it, like my instructional videos that I really hope that you're going to buy because it helps me fund these changes to the app. But using the app is completely free. So get it. Email Dennis, thank you very much for contributing. I see that you don't have a question attached to it. I don't know if that's because it didn't work or not, but if you didn't, if you had a question and it didn't work, the super chat, then please just send it to me. If you have the Mentour Aviation app, you can go in and use the submit feedback feature. That will send an email to me, and I will be able to see what your question is, and I'll answer it for you, okay? More questions. Can you explain a circling approach? Why would you do it and when? Yeah, so this is also things that I'd love to do. Okay, I want to do much more technical videos. I want to show you stuff like I did in my previous video, for example, some more like in-flight stuff, how we do things, you know, why we do things at certain points and stuff like that. If you're a flight sim guy, if you're really into flight sim, you will probably like those kind of instructional videos as well. So that will be coming probably in the Mentour Aviation app and probably on the app on the YouTube page as well. So expect more of that, but it will take some time for me to do. To answer your question, and a circling approach is something that we would do if the tailwind for the runway that has the instrument landing approach is too strong. Okay, so let's say, for example, we have a maximum of 10 knots tailwind, and there's only an instrument approach for one runway. Okay, and that runway has 12 knot tailwind. Well, in that case, we can't land legally, but we can land on the other side that doesn't have a landing system. And in that case, we do a circling maneuver, which is basically flying down to a predetermined minima and then doing a visual part of an instrument approach around the runway, landing from the other side. So that is what a circling essentially is. It's a visual maneuver from a instrument approach. More questions. I see this coming up loads in the normal chat. I will try to answer some of those as well. Mentor pilot, how was your period after you cleared your education? Well, I was very lucky. I actually, due to some different circumstances that I have covered in the channel, I managed to finish my training a little bit ahead of my classmates, and a friend of mine was actually employed by my current airline, and my current airline needed some extra pilots quickly, so they asked my friend, do you know anyone? And he said, well, this guy has just finished training. So before my training was actually completely finished, I was called for an interview with my current airline, and I managed to get through. So I actually had to stop what was left of my training, which was some hour building in the States. I had to skip that and start working instead. So I didn't have any time in between, which I understand sounds crazy, and it was crazy, and I was really, really lucky. Okay, but that's happened. More questions. So, Grant Brody, I see that you've done the same. So, thank you very much for contributing to the channel. If you do have a question and it didn't work, the super chat, then use the Mentour Aviation app, or just send me an email on mentor.pilot@gmail.com, and I will answer your question for you. Joel Gomes, have you ever faced an emergency? Yeah, but no. When you think of emergency, I haven't faced one of those, like serious fires or engine failure, stuff like that. But I've had medical emergencies that happen quite often. I've had some flap problems and things like that. It's impossible to avoid over a period. But the fact is that the 737NG is extremely reliable. It's very, very good. Very rarely there's any problem with them, and if the maintenance is being taken care of as well as it is in my current airline, then very rarely there are anything else than minor malfunctions. Rainer Rules, Mentor Pilot, hello. How was the last time you flew? When was the last time you flew into Stansted and Dublin? I flew into Stansted, that was a long time ago now actually. But Dublin I flew to last week. Let's see, it was on Wednesday, I believe, and it was great. Very nice weather. I actually talked about it in the chat in the Mentor Aviation app. So if you have that, you will get to follow where I go as well. More questions from the app chat. Let's see, guys. So I'm taking a lot of questions in here. They're popping up all the time. Can you do more pilot live videos, please? Yes, I can. However, like I said before, my airline is fine with me making videos and explaining things to you, but they're not fine with me showing my colleagues or the brand or in any way kind of, so that you might think that I am a spokesperson for my airline, because I'm not. I'm only a spokesperson for me and the channel. Okay, so it makes it a little bit hard for me to do day in the life of a pilot, because I can't show my day, basically. And until my airline gives me a green light saying that actually we would like you to show that, I don't think that I'm going to be able to do a full day, but I might be able to do parts of it though. Mentor, what is your thoughts of on a US college graduate turning to start for an airline in Europe or Asia? To start off at a regional airline in the US, the pay is peanuts when so many pilots living in crash pads. It's not it's not livable. Starting to pay more because they're not getting pilots for exactly the same reasons that you just mentioned. To get a job in Europe, if you're a US citizen, you just need to make sure that you have a permanent working visa, just like we need a permanent working visa to work in the US. In Asia, it tends to be the same, but it's easier to get. So yeah, it's definitely a possibility to do so. Alright, so let's see. From a Hi Petter, and it's a name I'm not going to mention it. I do have a couple of questions. Just out of curiosity, when you ferried the 737 from Seattle, was it a two-captain crew or just a normal captain first officer? Did you do the flight by legs or with long-range tanks? And yet another one about hats. I was told that hats actually has a reason. In case of emergency, it would be easier for PAX to know where the authority is. Alright, good. I'm going to answer some of them. Okay, so when I did my ferry flight, when I ferried the brand new 737 from Seattle, I flew with another delivery captain. Okay, so that was a captain who was trained and not only, but doing delivery flights, a very senior captain. Okay, so we were two captains flying it. We flew non-stop. We did not use ferry tanks because the 737 can take 21 tons and a little bit of fuel, and that is perfectly sufficient for flying the 10 hours needed to go from Seattle to Ireland, which is where I flew the aircraft in. The hat things does not really have any safety significance. The hats, in my view, is a good way of making sure that the crews are using their uniform, and because you look very silly if you come with a hat and not the rest of the uniform, and it's very obvious if you're not wearing your hat. So, you know, it's a good way for an airline to make sure that the crews are actually using their uniform in the way that they should be. The rest of the uniform has exactly the function that you were talking about, which is to make sure that you stand apart a little bit, that people know who's the commander and who's the first officer in a crew. In an emergency situation, it does give you authority when you talk directly to the passengers. They tend to listen if you are well dressed and look the part, basically. So I am all for making sure, keeping the uniform up to a high standard. You should all be doing that. You're all working towards becoming pilots, and you're imagining yourself in this uniform. So when you get your job, use it, wear it, take care of it, because you've deserved it, basically. 9809 Wico, hi, would my PPL be accepted in case of pilot incapacitation? That depends on what you mean, alright. A one pilot incapacitation, probably not, alright. It's likely that the remaining pilot would rather stay flying himself with a flight attendant checking on him or her than taking in someone with only a PPL who's never flown a big jet, because it's not going to be much help, to be honest. If you are the only one in the aircraft, if both pilots are gone and you're the only one with any kind of flying experience, then it's likely that it will be accepted, yes, because that is an extreme emergency situation. And actually, I have some stuff coming up for you guys regarding total pilot capacitation. I'm not going to say more than that, but you can be looking forward to some more news coming up fairly soon. Right, how do European airlines which do not have ETOPS installed fly the journey across the Atlantic? Well, they don't, alright? So they don't fly across the Atlantic. They fly something called the Spruce Goose route, which is which are the northern ones that actually goes and has less than 1 hour of single engine flying time, which is about 400 nautical miles to the closest alternate all the way up, which means that you need to fly via Canada, Greenland, Iceland, and then down to the continental Europe. So they don't fly straight across the Atlantic because you're not allowed to. BJ Grady, have you ever flown into Manchester, England? Yeah, I do fly there quite often, actually. I've been there a couple of times the last couple of weeks. It's a nice airport to fly into. Very busy, but very nice. Okay, Mentour. Helsinki airport codes are HEL and Echo Foxtrot Hotel Kilo. What is the difference between those codes? Well, basically, they are IATA or ICAO codes. All right, so IATA, the ICAO codes is the 4-letter one, the IATA one is the 3-letter one, and they're just designators, so there's no difference in them as such. But ICAO will be using the 4-letter full code for it. Cool, more questions. So, guys, let's see if there is any more people that wants to come in and support the channel and also have your questions answered for sure. Then use the super chat. You just see that little dollar sign just below your chat that you're writing in at the moment. Use that, and I will definitely look and try to answer your question. Okay, and it also helps the channel quite a bit. So use that, or go into the Mentour Aviation app, because that's where I'm taking most of the questions at the moment. Have you ever flown to Brussels airport? No, I haven't flown to Brussels main. I've flown to Charleroi though, many times. Alright, so Jake Wall 13. In the place where I live, people look at me and my goal of becoming an airline pilot stupid. How do you deal with this? Well, you just don't care. You know what your goal is, and people who think that a life goal is stupid it's just showing a reflection of their own doubt about their own abilities. Okay, they will say that you will never be able to do this, but you are able to do this, and they have no idea what you are able to do. So just don't listen to them. All right, so guys, I had a little hiccup in the stream there. We'll see. Let's see if I can get back on. Once again, my internet is working well. It seems like it's getting back online, so it should be up and running very soon. Right, I will just continue to answer that. So I see there's more people who have the same problem. I just want to say that I was listening to, even when I was a trained pilot, even when I had finished my training, I still had people saying that, well, you will never get that. I was working on the ramp in Västerås, which is a Swedish airport, working on the ramp to get some extra money as I was training, and part of that was, you know, cleaning out the aircraft and loading the bags and fueling and stuff like that. And I remember clearly being inside of an SAS aircraft, cleaning it out, and, you know, like peeking into the cockpit like you tend to do, and one of my co-workers like, huh, you will never see the inside of that. And, you know, it does hurt when you hear it, but you also have to realize that these people who say that, they have absolutely no idea what you're capable of. So what you're hearing is their own doubt of the possibilities in life, and people will always have doubts in themselves. Never listen to them. If people who had invented stuff were listening to what other people said was possible, we wouldn't have cars, we wouldn't have trains, we wouldn't have anything. We would still be sitting on a rock somewhere trying to kind of hit two things together. Like that is how, you know, the world is driven by people who believe in themselves. The world is changed by people who doesn't listen to other people telling them what is possible and not. So don't worry, guys. You know what you can do, and you will fix it. You are, you know, you're the masters of your own destiny, basically. Right, so guys, I see that it's starting to slow down in the questions here. I'll take a few questions from the actual chat here. Once again, guys, use the super chat if you really want my my answer to the questions. Hi Mentor, could you do a video about why flights get delayed? Well, you know, there's quite a lot of reasons why flight might get delayed. So technical reasons will probably be the most common one. Weather is another. Air traffic control strikes is a third one. Now, during the summers, you will see much more delays than you would be during the winter, and that is simply because there's much more flights. You know, there's more people traveling during the summer, and when that happens, the airspace gets very congested, and we get issued with slots. And I've done a video on slots, so check that out. But it basically means that we will, you know, you basically queue on the ground. So there will be these kind of 20 minutes delays, 30 minutes delays, stuff like that. But major delays, they are normally down to technical reasons or severe weather. What is a VOR? Well, a VOR is a radio beacon. It's a type of radio beacon that has directional facilities, so you can show direction to and from in 360 degrees. So you'll be able to find a specific, what's called a radial, which is 1 degree out from that, and you can follow it in. And the good thing with that is that you can fly a fairly precise course. So they are an NDB, which is also a radio beacon, but that's basically just a pointer pointing towards the beacon, and then you have to adapt yourself to get yourself towards that beacon. The VR is more exact. It's used for approaches, so is the NDB, but of course none of them are as exact as a instrument landing system in ILS. Right, Diego Sosa, Mentour, when do you get the chance to do a meetup in Spain? I could do that basically at any point. I could do it on a Friday. I could probably do it in Barcelona if there's enough people that would be interested in doing that. I would love to do a meetup because, I haven't tried that. And, judging from how fun it is to do these live streams, it would be fun to do one of those. So we can talk about it. If you go into my YouTube page, well, if you go into my Facebook page, then we can set up some kind of discussion there, and I can probably create an event on the Facebook page where we can kind of gather up. Maybe it will be just 5-10 people meeting up, have a tapas or something. That would be great, and I can do the same in London. It does create, it does take a little bit of time though to set up. So I just don't want to. Alright, so there seems to be a little bit of hard work going on in the Mentour Aviation chats there. I don't like that, guys. This is something I want to make absolutely clear. Like, this app, this channel, my Facebook page, all of that is completely positive and constructive. Okay, it has to be that way. I will not accept it not being that way, because there are so many forums like Prune or places like that where people throw shit at each other, disrespect each other, things like that. And my forums are not going to have that. We are going to be civilized to each other. There's too much anger, too much negativity and stuff already available in the world and on the internet, and anything that is associated with Mentour Pilot is not going to be that. We are going to be civilized with each other. So please stop bickering to each other. Find a different forum if you want to do that. In here, we're nice to each other. So just remember that. Cool. Alright, what is the difference between an ILS and an NDB approach? Yeah, an NDB approach basically, picture a beacon. Okay, and then picture that you're sitting in an aircraft and you have an instrument that is only doing one thing, and that is showing a needle towards where that beacon is. Alright. Now, you can use that beacon, if you know that there's a runway on the other side of it, for example, you can use that beacon and line yourself up so that your inbound course towards that beacon is the same as the runway course, and then fly descending down towards the beacon and then down towards the runway. But as you can hear, that is a fairly unprecise science, okay? That is why an NDB approach has a much higher minimum. It doesn't have a glide slope, so it won't show you how normally you have step descents where you can go, for example, to a specific distance or a specific timing, and then you can descend to a specific altitude, and then you can continue and you can descend like that. So it's very imprecise, but it does work to get yourself down towards a runway. And ILS is an instrument landing system. It has a localizer and a glide slope, okay? They are both, the way they work is that they are transmitters at the runway, right? At the far end of the runway to the localizer, and then you have a glide slope just next to the poppies, basically. And what they do is they send out two lobes each, two radio lobes, okay? They create like little balloons, and in the middle there, they are both different frequencies, okay? So two different frequencies, and your instrument interprets, depending on how much of these frequencies the instrument sees, it will tell you if you're left or right of center line. And the same thing goes for the glide slope. So you have a lobe going up and a lobe going down, and depending on how much of those frequencies feel, it knows exactly where you are height-wise. And then you follow it. So the sweet spot is where it's actually equal in between these frequencies, both to the left and right and up and down. And then that is the middle of your glide slope. You just follow that all the way down, and that is extremely exact. So an NDB approach, very inexact high minima, an ILS, very exact low minima. That's basically what it is. All right, cool. All right, guys. So it seems like someone has actually someone is actually using my name in the Mentour Aviation chat. Okay, it's not me. I am not writing these things that is coming in that's sounding like this, and I'm guessing that you guys probably can figure that out. I will remove that user very, very soon. All right. So at the moment, I don't know exactly what to do because I haven't been hijacked in my own app before, but I will do something about it. Don't worry. And you who's doing that is not smart. I might actually send or I might actually send in a complaint about that to local police. So don't do that. Not a good idea. Cool. More questions. I will take another few ones before I finish this off. Mentor, when you are in the plane, do you feel the pressure, or do you feel it in a simulator? If you mean if I'm getting nervous, not really. I'm doing what I'm being trained at doing, and I know pretty much where my limits are, so I know to keep away from situations where the pressure might build up. When things does happen, the pressure starts building, then I tend to, at least I hope so, the times that this happened to me, you kind of focus more and more, so you don't feel the nervousness as you would if you're, for example, sitting in a simulator and you know that whatever is happening is not actually real, but the risk for your job is a little bit real. So there's two different things. When you're in an aircraft, you're very focused. You tend to be that in the simulator as well, but it's slightly different. All right, I hope that makes sense. So, how often is fuel tankering used? Yeah, that's depending. I know actually Captain Joe has made an excellent video explaining what tankering is. You can check that out. Tankering is basically it costs money to carry too much fuel. This is why airlines tend to only lift up as much fuel as they need for the trip and for the reserves. Okay, so we don't fly around with full tanks because it's heavy and it costs money, right? But there are also places in the world where the fuel price is extremely high. So in some cases, it might actually be worth to be a little bit heavier and burn a little bit more fuel, because the fuel that you are going to buy in the place you're going to is so expensive that it's better to arrive with as much fuel as possible, having to upload very little of that expensive fuel and then go back. So I would say that happens on maybe 10-15% of the flights that I'm doing, because the fuel prices tends to be fairly equal otherwise, especially within Europe. But this is basically why we do it. How long does it take and how much does it cost to become a pilot in the US? Do you need to bachelor first when I want an integrated course? Right, so when it comes to costs and stuff like that, the best thing you can do is just go to a flight school that you're interested in. There are loads of them, there are hundreds of them in the US. Go in, check out their website, they will be able to tell you what the prices are. If you're going to work in the US, it's likely that you will need a degree, because most of the airlines in the US actually requires a degree. A little bit different in the UK and in Europe, where you might not need a degree. Some airlines might still ask it for you, but you might not need it. Okay, so it's slightly different, but I won't be able to sit here and tell you exactly how much it costs, because it's going to be different between different schools and different states and stuff like that. So just go in there, contact them, find out as much as you can about the school. Try to go to an open day if you can. It's the best advice I can give you. Right, some more questions. Let's see if there's anything. Celebrity City has asked on Super Chat. Is it true that airplanes have barely any fuel left by the time they land? Also, I have a wonderful week, Mentor Pilot, and everyone else on here. Thank you very much, Celebrity City. No, it's not true that we land with almost no fuel. All right, I very rarely land with less than 2.5 tons in my tanks. Okay, that is because by law you need to have both the fuel needed to taxi out to the departure runway, flight to your destinations, landing. You need to have what you need for a go-around, right? For a diversion to your alternate, and for a minimum of 30 minutes holding as well. All right, these are the legal minimums. So you need to have all of this, plus contingency fuel, which tends to be 5% of the total burn of the initial trip. Okay, so there's loads and loads of extra fuel that you always have to have, because you need to be able to go to your destination and then divert and still have plenty of fuel. It doesn't mean that we're landing with enough fuel to kind of go back to our original airport, but it is plenty of fuel. Okay, in my case, it's around 2 to 2.5, maybe 3 tons on landing. If you're flying a 777 or 747, it's going to be loads more than that, but it's always going to equate to the same thing. They also need to be able to get to their destination and to an alternate and 30 minutes and contingency. All right, and then on top of that, we tend to save fuel during each flight. So in the end, you do have quite a lot of fuel when you land. And if the weather is bad, then you take extra fuel. So you have extra time, so you can sit and hold, for example, and wait out the weather and stuff like that. So this is what we do. This is part of our pre-flight operations and planning. Right, do you learn from air crash investigations? Yes, I do. I watch it quite often. I mean, I know that aircraft investigations, they do things a little bit more dramatically than maybe they need to, but all in all, they're using the actual investigations, okay? All of the facts and stuff, which means that as an airline pilot, we can learn loads from the mistakes that other pilots have done, because we know we are human, we know we make mistakes, we know that it could be us sitting there in that aircraft that's suddenly starting to malfunction. So to learn how they reacted and how people around them reacted is really, really helpful, you know, because it gives you experience without you having to experiencing it yourself, which is great. Sorry, I'm just going to take something to drink. I run out of voice otherwise, and I've been running for almost an hour, so I'm about to turn this one off, guys. What is differential brakes? Is it different from normal braking? Well, differential braking is basically just using different brake pressure on the pedals. It can be used for steering if it's needed on the ground. So, you know, that is differential braking. Have you ever met any fans or co-pilots who watch your videos and haven't been on board your aircraft? Yeah, more and more. And almost every training flight I do now, there tends to be co-pilots who have been watching my channel in one way or another. So it's becoming more and more often. It's great though. It's great, you know, because I really try to help. You know, I don't do this for any other reason than to build a constructive way, somewhere where you can feel safe, a place where you can ask your questions without being judged, stuff like that. This is what I'm trying to do. So, you know, people who are watching my channel, co-pilots who have been watching my channel, that do it. We made the way they ergonomic enough so that you can sit for long periods of time. They need to be able to be adjusted so that you can fly safely, depending on your height and stuff. So you can adjust them in almost every way imaginable. They also need to be light so that they don't cost a lot of money to have. They need to be sturdy so that they protect you in case of a hard impact. So, you know, designing a pilot seat has a lot of different things involved in it. And they are fairly comfortable, to be perfectly honest. You know, there's a lot of like lumbar support and back support, and you can change the support on your legs if you're sitting for a long time. It's actually very, very good. So Rob War 7, what is the most amazing weather system you've seen so far? Like a storm cloud formation. Have you ever seen an eclipse while flying? Yeah, I actually have seen all of those things. I have seen an eclipse. I have seen some fairly humongous storms. Actually, last year there was some enormous storms over Barcelona. Like, we had to fly into Girona, and there was a storm sitting over Girona that was as big as it almost went all the way out to the Balearic Islands, and it was fairly thin, extremely high, and it went far out. So the only way for me to land was to get around the storm and land from the other direction, because it was actually moving towards the ILS section of the Girona. And it was interesting, I'll tell you. There was lightning every second, as in it was continuous. It was like a stroboscope with lightning everywhere. Actually, if you remind me, I think I'm going to try to find the lightning because they was out on the news and they actually made a video of those lightnings. I'll try to see if I can find it on my Facebook page, and I'll post it later on. Mentor pilot, what about delivery flights, like Ryanair from Seattle to Dublin, for example? What about the Atlantic there and the NOTAMs on the 738? Well, I did a delivery flight from Seattle to Ireland. We had a private briefing room and a dispatcher that briefs us on all the NOTAMs and everything we need to know with our route alternates that you need to have. You need to have alternates within an hour along the route. We don't have ETOPS clearance, so we had to follow the Blue Spruce routes, which are over, like I said before, over Canada, Greenland, Iceland, and Ireland. It worked fine. It's great. Have you ever seen the Northern Lights while flying? Yes, I have. Actually, during my delivery flight, I saw a lot of Northern Lights over Greenland. Absolutely fantastic. And I'm Swedish, so I've flown quite a lot up in the north, and the Northern Lights can be absolutely breathtaking up there. Have you ever flown with live from the flight deck guy? I don't know. No one knows who is, so I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Mr. Funky Warrior, thank you very much for contributing. If you were trying to send in a question and it didn't work, then use the mentor.pilot@gmail.com address and send in the question. I will answer it for you. All right. Thank you very much for contributing to the channel. And once again, guys, before I go, because I've been talking for almost an hour now, if you do feel like you want to contribute to the channel and help me to improve the quality of both the application and the channel and stuff like that, then you can always go in to my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/mentorpilot and take part of my Patreon crew. You will get to preview my videos, you can come with feedback of what you want to see more of, and if there's something in the video that you don't like, you can tell me. I'm using my Patreons as kind of the guys who are my gatekeepers, who are keeping me from sending out some stuff that I shouldn't be sending out, and they're doing a fantastic work on top of supporting the channel, so it's great. Does takeoff run be affected by altitude of airports? Like if there's an airport in China that is 5,000 meter runways and still only accommodate the 737? Yeah. Yes, pressure altitude of the airport will be important. We have a maximum altitude that we even can use. And Liberty City, but not soon. Of long, 30, 40 years. Just waiting for the internet to. If you think about it, we don't even have working fully autonomous cars yet. There are not fully autonomous trains. There are certainly, almost no autonomous boats. I think there are a few, but very, very few. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that it's extremely complex to have a safety system. You can build something that can drive on its own, but to have it actually working safely, always, to have a safety system that picks it up is extremely hard, which is why I don't think that we will see aircrafts flying without pilots anytime soon. And then even if you manage to build this system and it works, you need to test it, then it needs to be certified. And that in itself, even if you would start now, would probably take 15-20 years to even have it certified. But on top of that, you also have to change all of the rules and regulations and the ICAO rules regarding passenger transport airplanes. Now, it's an enormous thing that needs to be done, and it will not happen very soon, believe me. So I wouldn't worry too much. Well, I wouldn't worry for you guys who are watching this, maybe for your grandchildren. Your grandchildren might not be able to be pilots because they might be automated. But, up until then, for you guys, for me, no, I wouldn't be worried at all. Just fun and games. What would you say were the biggest cons of being a pilot? Love the content. Thanks for being so awesome. Thank you very much. The biggest cons is being away from your family on family holidays, for example. Not being able to plan your life around weekends, because weekends the whole society is built up around weekends, and as a pilot you can't use that because you will be working most weekends and things like that. So the roster and the roster impact of being away from your family. Without a doubt, that's the biggest drawback of being a pilot. Now, you will also be much more off, and you might be home much more than other people, which is a good pro. But the fact is that society is built around very stringent kind of rules. Monday to Friday work, Saturday, Sunday home, play football, go to, to do outdoors activities, stuff like that. And if you're not a part of that, and your wife is, for example, then you will feel like you're kind of hovering around your own life on the flying rosters, and that can be very, very hard on a relationship. So, if you're talking about cons, that is probably one of the biggest ones. Do you always fly with the same crew? No, I don't, and I actually did a video on that just the other week, so have a look at that. And circular runways I've been talking about in the last 3 live streams. I will not be talking too much about it here. You will never see them happening. Jake Wall 13. How do I become a patron? Well, actually, I'm going to write the report. I'm going to write the address here in the chat, so you can just click the link, okay, and then just look at it, see if you like it or not, and sign up if you want to. I'll write it down now. There you go. And it should be available to you. So if you do want to sign up with Patreon, that's great. It's a fantastic way of supporting the channel, and I'm really grateful for all of my patrons at the moment. Guys, that is more than 1 hour. This is officially a record when it comes to my live streams. I've never done over an hour before. Now I have. But remember, for those of you who are still here, I am going to try to do this every Sunday from now on. So I'm going to try to release a video on either Thursday or Friday, I haven't decided yet, and a live stream on Sunday. So you can start to kind of build up. If you want to take part of the live streams, you can start to do that on a more regular basis. And then there might be some other odd stuff popping up during the week, but at least one video on Thursday or Friday and a Sunday live stream is what I'm going to try to do. All right, and then anything else you will be notified through the Mentour Aviation app. So, and on my Facebook pages and stuff like that. So, thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure as always. I love hanging out with you guys. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you next time. Bye.